Jenny and I have been together for 5 years. I became her assistant to help save the company, taking care of everything there. Her friends mocked me for being a freeloader, but she never defended me. She canceled our engagement party to host a welcome party for someone she cared about. That night, I stood outside the private room. I heard him ask, "Won't Gary be upset that you suddenly called off the engagement?" She laughed and said, "Don't worry. Guys like him are easy to please." At that moment, I decided I needed to leave. On the day I flew out of the country, she showed up at the airport in a wedding dress, driving a sports car, ready to propose to me. But this time, I didn't wait for her. During the engagement rehearsal, Jenny never showed up. I couldn't reach her on the phone. Mike joked the princess got cold feet. Huh? Probably. You still got jokes? If you ask me, skip the wedding and stop being her lapdog. Can't blame him. I did act like Jenny's lapdog. She was strong-willed, and when unhappy, she didn't care about sparing my feelings. But I understood her privileged background and how she was pampered, naturally a bit spoiled. As the man, I figured I should let things slide for her. Plus, I was the orphan her family sponsored. After college, I became her assistant. She thought I wanted the job, but I just wanted to be near her. She didn't know I fell for her at first sight at the orphanage. She was like a princess, and back then, I was too shy to look her in the eye. But she smiled and gave me a gardenia, introducing herself as Jenny. In that moment, she became my first love and my only love. I saved that flower's petals between the pages of my books, just like how I carefully cherished my feelings for her deep inside. Even knowing she wasn't the most capable, that her company was full of problems, I turned down offers from big firms to stay and help her out. I willingly played the role of her secret boyfriend and subordinate for 5 years, helping her secure her position step by step. Her friends didn't realize her achievements were thanks to me and thought I was a freeloader. I never clarified because I knew she valued her image. After all these years, I loved her, was used to looking up to her, so I tolerated and silently supported her. But I'm human, and I get disappointed too. Constantly giving with nothing in return is exhausting and makes one consider quitting the relationship. So, I contacted the hotel manager to cancel the engagement party. If I guessed right, Jenny was on a flight to Los Angeles. Last night, her admirer called. I heard her say, "Henry." It was hard to imagine how someone like Jenny, who's always cranky in the morning, spoke softly, asking what happened without a hint of irritation. I didn't know what was said on the other end, but I heard Jenny's anxious voice from the bathroom, full of worry and care. Before she came out, she accidentally knocked over my glass. By morning, she had left, leaving behind broken pieces. And I showed up at the hotel for the engagement rehearsal as usual. But I lost the bet. He's the charming, talented, romantic guy her friends always compare me to. The crush she had in college but never confessed to before he went abroad. He's the guy I couldn't beat in 5 years. Truthfully, I'm tired. The next day at work, I felt everyone's curious stares. Walking past the break room at lunch, the staff were gossiping about me. You think Gary failed to rise up the ranks? Well, they're not from the same world. Even if they marry, they'll end up divorced. But I think Gary's pretty handsome and a gentleman. So what? If he was really capable, would he be an assistant for 5 years? At best, he's Gary, at worst, a gopher just surviving by being a lapdog. Yeah, our Jenny is practically royalty. Since taking over, she's grown the company and might even take it public in a couple of years. How many people can do that? Falling for this Phoenix man? Luckily, she's woken up now. 5 years and such rumors still swirled around the office. I don't believe Jenny didn't know. She just didn't care enough about me. That evening, I worked until midnight when Jenny surprisingly returned. I expected her to apologize. After all, ditching me for the engagement was inexcusable, right? But instead, she demanded, "Why'd you cancel the engagement? Didn't I say I had an emergency trip and to postpone? What part of postpone didn't you get?" Oh, I remembered. I did get a call from her personal assistant yesterday afternoon. But I didn't want to postpone. Especially not for him. What if he calls again next time? I held back the urge to confront her. I didn't want to fight. The engagement prep had piled up work, and I was exhausted. I chose a diplomatic way. Jenny, I feel like we need to really think things through. Marriage isn't a joke. We should be sure before setting another date. Clearly, she hadn't thought it through. She could stand me up for our engagement. What about marriage? I'm not going to put my dignity on the ground for someone to trample all over. Gary, what do you mean? She looked at me with cold eyes, crossing her arms defensively. Don't you know how my dad is pressuring me? Do you know what he said to me today? Since you canceled, deal with the aftermath. Not my job to clean up. Her tone was harsh, and I couldn't help questioning her. Clean up? Wasn't it for Henry? You could skip our engagement for him but not think about your dad's feelings then? She laughed bitterly. I went overseas because it was important, okay? We're clear as day, nothing shady like you think. Jenny wouldn't cheat. How important? Even more than our engagement, why not tell me ahead of time? Was there any chance to discuss it? Even after everything, I don't get an explanation. Just her questioning me, right? How could I tell you in advance? It was urgent. Did I not have my assistant notify you? Why must you be unreasonable? Is love the only thing on your mind? Are you just obsessed? I felt like laughing. Doesn't she know that besides thoughts of her, all I think about is helping her take control in her family and how to revive the company? Since her dad sponsored my education and medical bills, I've given my all to her family's business. Jenny, you know very well if I'm love-obsessed or not. But can you not be so possessive all the time and stop being so paranoid? It's really annoying. Her words made me feel like I was drowning, gasping for air. Was I being paranoid when she left our engagement party for another man? Was it me being irritating? Felt like someone stabbed me straight in the heart. My mind went blank. I didn't know what to say. Fine, whatever. I muttered weakly. She pushed the vase on the table to the ground and stormed off upstairs, leaving only "You can sleep in the guest room." I don't want to see you. I sat alone on the couch for a long time and didn't go upstairs to comfort Jenny. Every time we fought, I was the one who gave in first, always trying to make things right because I was a man and I loved her more. I used to think I would love her forever. But I've come to understand that love can be drained bit by bit each time it's not reciprocated. Sadness, overwhelming like a tide, flooded over me. I cleaned up the broken pieces on the floor, and as I passed by her door, I overheard her playing games with her crush. Henry, you're amazing. Another kill. Henry, come save me. Henry, are you feeling better? Wanna play another game? Turns out, she knew how to comfort someone. Just not me. At that moment I felt dizzy. The floor seemed to be absorbing me like a black hole. Why does Jenny always act like nothing happened after she's hurt me? Does she think she can keep treating me like this as long as I don't bow down? What did I even do wrong? I couldn't figure it out. Just like that, Jenny and I entered our first silent fight. At the office, she wouldn't speak to me directly, only passing messages through others. And any documents needing her signature, I'd send someone else to hand over. At home, we didn't talk, and we still slept in separate rooms. I couldn't have imagined how stifling this atmosphere would feel. But when it really happened, it just felt like nothing. Disappointment piled up so much, I didn't even hope for anything new. I didn't expect her to realize I could be hurt too. I didn't expect her to notice my suppressed pain and the compromises and concessions I'd made for love. So much so that when she bailed on our engagement party, my first feeling wasn't even hurt. It was numbness. One day, she got off work early, but I had to stay for an urgent project and ended up working until past midnight. I wasn't even finished when I got a call from her. Meet me at the usual place. She hung up without giving me a chance to refuse. Jenny had her own assistant and driver. She didn't actually need me to pick her up. That club she liked was really safe too. Plus, we were in a Cold War, and my gut told me nothing good would come of it. But after some hesitation, I went anyway. I was worried she might be drinking too much and messing around with her rowdy friends. Out of responsibility, I didn't want her getting hurt. When I got to the club room, the door wasn't closed properly. Voices spilled out from inside. Jenny, won't Gary be mad you called off the wedding? Don't worry. Obedient dogs are easy to handle. Right. I always thought he was just a dog your family kept. Jenny didn't deny it. She accepted it. At that moment, the love that filled my heart seemed to be ripped away, leaving it cold and dead. Jenny, this is partly my fault. If I hadn't called you, you wouldn't have worried and flown to LA to see me. Don't say that. I'm really glad you called. Teasing voices filled the room. What call are you talking about? Share with us. Why call Jenny but not us? Aren't we your friends? Henry, you haven't been back in 7 years. Did you come back because you heard Jenny got engaged and wanted to break it up? Spill it. When they mocked me for being a pushover, why didn't she get mad? The first time I met her friends and they made fun of my knockoff clothes, why didn't she stand up for me? She'd just say her friends were straightforward. No harm intended. But she knew I bought those knockoffs not out of vanity, but ignorance. Why didn't she give me a chance to explain? The dignity I carefully kept intact was shredded by her friends' comments. Yet, whenever I saw the shirts and ties she gave me later, I'd forget the hurt and fall for her even more. It wasn't about the price, but being touched by how she tried to protect my pride. So every time her friends broke my confidence, she'd patch it up, and I'd be grateful. In this relationship, I placed her on a pedestal, always prioritizing her feelings. No matter who was right or wrong, I'd apologize after every fight. No wonder they said I was like a dog. Honestly, I really was a dog without any dignity. By calling me here today, she probably intended to use her friends to make me see my place, to tell me I was unworthy of our silent feud, and I should apologize with head bowed down. But she was wrong. It wasn't submission. It was care for her. And now I didn't care anymore. Just as I was about to walk away, someone approached. It was one of Jenny's friends, Linda. Gary, why aren't you coming in? Were you eavesdropping at the door? Her voice was loud, silencing the laughter and chatter inside. In the past, I would have probably felt awkward and embarrassed. Now, I just casually said, you all keep gossiping behind people's backs. Is that kind of nonsense really worth eavesdropping on? Sorry, I'm not interested, that's why I didn't go in. We have nothing in common, so I didn't want to ruin the mood. Linda seemed surprised that I snapped back. Just as I was about to leave, Jenny spoke up. Gary, come in. I didn't budge. Linda shot me a gloating look and then bumped into my shoulder as she went in. Don't make me say it twice. It's not that I wanted to keep fawning over her. That's why I didn't leave. I just didn't want to make a scene. There was gratitude still, even if there was no love. Back then, if it weren't for their family helping me out, I, an orphan with congenital heart disease, might not be alive today. So I turned around and walked in. And there he was, the guy she supposedly had a crush on, Henry. I didn't expect him to be so good-looking. Fair skin, delicate features, and that silver hair looked really nice. Even better than a celebrity, just a bit fragile-looking. No wonder Jenny had a crush on him throughout college but never confessed. Hey, snap out of it. We know our star looks good, but you don't have to stare like that. Henry gave me a slight smile. Don't believe their nonsense. I'm not a star, just a little painter. I knew. The starry painting he gave Jenny hangs in her study. So you're Gary, right? I'm Henry, nice to meet you. If it weren't for the challenge in his eyes, I might have thought it was a friendly smile. I responded coolly, yeah. Jenny, with a stern face, spoke to me. Since you're here, sit down. Our welcome party for Henry isn't over. You'll have to wait. She sat next to Henry, with someone else beside her, leaving no spot for me. So I sat in the corner. Everyone acted like I was invisible. In the past, I'd have felt on edge, scared her friends would look down on me, embarrassing her. Even if I didn't think much of her friends, I would have tried to get along to avoid upsetting Jenny. But sometimes, care leads to chaos, and it took me a while to realize that to those idle rich kids, the more I tried, the less they respected me. My gestures were seen as sucking up. Now I was just glad to have some peace in a corner, taking out my phone to deal with work stuff. They were playing a game of passing notes with their mouths. The noise was loud and annoying. I glanced over, disgusted. Just then, as Henry was about to pass a note to Jenny, it dropped, and they accidentally kissed. Henry quickly pulled back. Jenny, sorry, I didn't mean to. It's fine. Jenny forced a smile. She looked stiff. It's just a game. Not sure who she was trying to convince. Through the crowd, Watching her nervous look, I mocked myself with a smile. Ah, you two lost. Come on, draw a truth or dare for a penalty. Stare deep into each other's eyes and sing a love song. Hey, hey. Ah, OTP vibes. In the past, I might have been heartbroken. But now I just felt sick. So sick I wanted to puke. Jenny gazed at Henry all googly-eyed, her ears turning red. I hadn't seen her look this in love in ages. These past 2 years, as the company grew, she became more impatient with me. I still remember that first year at the company, working late on New Year's Eve together. I told her to go rest, but she insisted on staying with me. At midnight, the office lights suddenly went out. She stood on the 30th floor balcony, holding a sparkler. Gary, Happy New Year. May you never be happy without me in your life. Even her confessions were so assertive. Snow began to fall suddenly. She blushed and asked me, Gary, will you stay by my side from now on? Sure. Fireworks in hand, she ran to me. In the moment she hugged me, I really felt like I had it all. I knew what it was like when she loved me. So of course, I could sense her growing disdain. Many times I didn't know why. At this moment, the reason became clear. When the music ended, Henry suddenly picked up the microphone, facing my way. Gary, don't misunderstand. We just lost a game and we're fooling around. I swallowed back some ugly words. Yeah, you do have all the fun you want. Jenny suddenly sneered. Gary, why the sarcasm? I'm confused. I've been acting so magnanimous. Why is she still picking a fight? But this time I won't hold back. If you find me annoying, I'll leave. Clear the space for you. I stood up. Jenny's face turned even darker, and she threw the microphone to the ground. If you're feeling too left out, then come over here. Henry, can you scoot over for Gary? Henry clearly looked stunned, then gave a fake smile. You're right. You lovebirds should sit together. I saw him practically grinding his teeth. His animosity all night was obvious. I wanted to leave, but Jenny pulled me to sit between them. If they're into each other, why not just be together? Would save me the trouble of figuring out how to break up. What does sticking me in the middle even mean? Feels like I'm just part of their game. It's even more nauseating. My stomach is churning. Until a sharp pain hits me, I realize I'd been too busy with work to eat. My gastritis might have flared up. Just when I was about to tell Jenny I wanted to leave, she pushed a glass of ice-cold drink towards me. I lost the game. You drink it for me. I frowned. She knows very well how bad my gastritis is. I can't handle alcohol. For 3 years, I drank quite a bit blocking for her, ruining my stomach. These past 2 years, as business thrived, when I'm out socializing, I can just say I'm allergic to alcohol and no one minds. Jenny's doing this on purpose. I looked up at her, asking, why? I honestly don't get why Jenny's doing this to me. Even if you don't love someone anymore, why hurt them? What did I do wrong? I stood by her for 5 years, pulling all-nighters for the company, drinking, giving it my all. I saved the company, growing it bit by bit, never taking credit, not even the money I deserved. Had it been someone else, they would have already taken a big chunk of the company's shares. I get it now. My mistake was not wanting anything, just her love. What? I inconvenience you by drinking for you? She looked at me coldly. Am I an inconvenience to you too? There was a silent tension in the air. I didn't speak, just picked up the glass and drank. Then Jenny lost the second round, then the third. I took the second drink, then the third. My stomach hurt more and more, sweat soaking my back. But still I endured, because this was the last time. I felt like Jenny was getting angrier. I didn't get it. Isn't this what she wanted? Seeing me so miserable. Isn't that exactly what she aimed for? What's she mad about? Henry, sitting next to me, suddenly spoke up. Jenny, I don't think Gary's handling alcohol well. He's looking kinda pale. Want me to drink for you? I'd be grateful. But Jenny said, no need, you've got a cold and you're on meds, drinking's not good. Henry gave me an apologetic smile. Sorry, Jenny's worried about my health. Can't help you out. This is what they call a nice guy online, right? Such a big guy. Why doesn't he just drop dead? I can't stay here anymore. I grabbed the whole bottle from the table, facing Jenny. I know you're mad at me. Here, no need to force drink after drink down me. You want my life, right? I'm giving it back to your family. Then I started chugging from the bottle, the burning liquor hitting my already pained stomach. Cough, cough. The alcohol choked me, causing a massive coughing fit. Just as I was about to continue drinking after coughing, everything went black, and I collapsed. In the haze, I faintly heard gasps around me. Gary threw up blood. Call an ambulance. I felt someone gripping my hand tightly. It seemed like it started raining, landing on my face. Gary, wake up. Don't sleep. The ambulance is on its way, please. But I was so tired and sleepy. Just a little rest, I'll just rest a bit. Gary, wake up, I was wrong. Was that Jenny's voice? No way. We were together for 5 years. Jenny never apologized. Probably a hallucination from losing consciousness. Morning came. I woke up to the smell of disinfectant, seeing Jenny by my bedside, holding my hand tightly. If it were before, maybe I'd be touched. But now I felt nothing inside. At that moment, I realized I really didn't love her anymore. The feeling was gone. I slowly pulled my hand away. She suddenly woke up. She seemed like she hadn't slept all night, her eyes red and swollen. I'm fine now, you should go rest. It's okay. I'll stay with you. I got abalone porridge delivered for when you woke up so you could have some. She opened the box on the table, spooned some, blew on it and brought it to my lips. I fought the nausea. Just leave it there. I'm not hungry. Jenny looked stunned, self-mockingly. Are you still mad at me? No, I just really hate seafood. I'm not the one who loves seafood. Gary, I didn't think your stomach issues were this serious. If I knew, I wouldn't have made you drink last night. I was too much, my bad. You've been giving me the silent treatment long enough, right? Let's make up. I promise that engagement party situation won't happen again. She poked my cheek, a playful tone in her voice, smiling at me. I'll be here until you're better, until you recover. If you need anything, just let me know. Gary, calm down. Okay? I was stunned. I never thought Jenny would apologize, would try to appease me. At first. But I didn't feel the slightest bit happy. She just looked at me, waiting for my response. But I was speechless. It was all too late. While I was at a loss for words, Jenny's phone rang. She hesitated for a second before picking it up. Then she suddenly stood up, ready to leave. Henry, don't worry. I'll be right there. After the call ended, she seemed to remember me. She turned back, gave me an apologetic look. As expected, once there's a first time, apologizing the second time becomes easier. Gary, I'm sorry. Something serious happened with Henry. I have to go now. I watched Jenny silently and asked deliberately, it's me or him? Gary. I almost thought she was going to choose me. Jenny frowned and continued, don't be silly. Okay? Henry and I are just friends. Promise I'll be back later. Then she left. I didn't stop her, because I'd already let it go. Good thing she chose this way, because I'd made the same choice in my heart. Jenny, this 10-year crush, 5 years of love, ends here. As you wanted, your freedom is yours again. I'm Gary, and I'm done owing your family. Maybe she never liked me that much to begin with. I was useful, that's why she kept me. To be precise, I was useful to the company. Now I'm not only useless, I might even outshine her, become her obstacle. Jenny's dad forced her to marry me, forced her to give me 10% shares. Even though I said I'd sign a prenup and wouldn't take company shares, she still guarded against me at every turn. Once, at a party, someone jokingly offered me an olive branch. She publicly flipped out, embarrassing them. I thought she really cared about me. But no. She feared I'd leave and wanted to cut off all my escape routes. Then trap me in a cage spun from so-called love. She doesn't let go of me or treat me well. She just sees me as a tool for her power play in the company. I looked out the window at the steady rain. It made me think of Jenny and Henry singing a little love song. Even if the rain turns the whole city upside down, I'll hold you in my arms. Can't stand it. Seeing you walking away. I've always been tone deaf. I can't even get a simple nursery rhyme right, so there's no way I could duet with Jenny. I'm no good at sweet talk or romance. I couldn't paint a beautiful star map or give Jenny the love she wanted. I pulled out my phone and slowly started typing a resignation letter in my notes. Just then, a message from a stranger popped up. "Gary, you okay?" The profile pic was an oil painting of a white gardenia. It reminded me of my tattoo. I suspected it might be Jenny's alternate account. When I checked out the profile, it turned out to be Henry. His latest post was from 2 hours ago. "Tasting Jenny's homemade porridge makes life worth it." That's when I realized Jenny could cook. We'd been together for 5 years, and she never cooked for me once. At first, we were both busy, so it was either takeout or having the housekeeper cook. But for the last couple of years, I wasn't as busy, and I started learning to cook for her instead. It's true. Genuine affection doesn't always get you the same in return. I replied to Henry, "Don't worry. I'm still planning to attend your funeral after 7 days. Not going anywhere." He didn't reply. Just as I was about to delete this creepy contact, Jenny called. I answered and she started yelling, "Gary, are you crazy? He was being nice, why curse him? If you can't speak like a human, just shut up." I didn't want to listen anymore, so I cut her off. "Jenny, let's break up." She hung up right away, and she blocked me. Honestly, I just hope those two stay together forever and stop messing with anyone else. After I sent the resignation email, I booked a moving company for the next day. She never replied. I didn't try to contact her either. Worst case, I'd confront her at work. The next morning, I checked out of the hospital and went back to the villa. While I was packing, I heard the front door open. Jenny's crying echoed through the halls. "Gary, Gary." I stepped out of the room. She stumbled toward me. "My dad's in critical condition. They resuscitated him last night. He's still in the ICU and hasn't woken up. I tried calling you all day, but you wouldn't pick up. I even went to the hospital to find out you were discharged. Why didn't you answer? Do you know how scared I was?" I paused, then pulled out my phone. There were quite a few missed calls I hadn't seen. It was on silent, and I'd forgotten to switch it back. "Don't cry. I'll go with you to see your dad." Jenny hugged me tightly, and I could feel her shaking. "Gary, I'm terrified of losing my dad." "It'll be okay," I assured her. "He's a good man. The good always have luck on their side." When she tried to drive, I stopped her. I'd seen how reckless she got behind the wheel when upset. At the hospital, we waited in the lounge. I suggested she rest for a bit and I'd keep an eye out. She nodded and leaned her head on my shoulder. Her dark circles were heavy, but I couldn't push her away. It didn't matter anyway. My feelings were numb. My heart had been dead for a while. The only concern I had was her father's condition. He'd donated money for my heart surgery, helped fund my education. He was like a second father to me. For the past 2 years, Jenny had broken my heart, yet I never left her. It wasn't just leftover affection. A big reason was her dad's frail health. I didn't want to upset him. Out of the blue, Jenny asked, "Are you still mad at me?" No. It didn't matter what she did, who she was with, or who she cooked porridge for. It wasn't my business anymore. Jenny seemed to sense my intent to end things. She said, "Can we talk after my dad's better? I can't handle any more hits right now." I replied slowly, "Okay." I didn't understand why she wasn't having Henry by her side instead. But I didn't ask. I didn't want it to seem like I still cared. 3 days later, her dad pulled through and woke up. He asked to see me alone. He grabbed my hand and said, "Gary, I know these years have been hard on you." I shook my head, "Not hard. It wasn't right to use a favor to guilt someone, but I didn't stop Jenny at first because my health was failing. I knew she couldn't handle those company sharks, and I was powerless." I know he patted my hand. "The engagement party, I didn't bring it up because I was ashamed. I know how hard these years have been for you, with Jenny acting the way she did. I tried to advise her, but I couldn't change her. Jenny's always been stubborn, and without her mom early on, I spoiled her, and she's become like this. I know being with her was tough. I just said it wasn't tough. I'd gotten used to swallowing all my bitter pills. No one forced me. It was my choice. Paying the price for my choice was only fair." He sighed. "When you both visited me early on, your eyes were full of light when you looked at her. But now they're not." He gave me a testing look, then sighed again. I've seen the other side and I'm letting go. I don't want you two to end up hating each other. But I have one request. Please don't hate me. I'm sorry for my selfishness. They say guys hardly cry, but until the saddest moments. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Like a weight was lifted off my chest, and I could finally breathe. I truly could be myself now. I'd no longer need to please anyone. No more pretending out of a sense of debt. I nodded firmly at him. Thank you. Thank you so much. He smiled gently, looking at me kindly. Gary, you're a good kid, and you'll definitely be happy in the future. I decided to support you back then because you're outstanding and you deserve it. Don't feel indebted to our family. Even if you owe us, you've already paid back in these 5 years. Remember, no matter what, even when you face Jenny, stand tall. You're equals. At that moment, warmth filled my heart. When someone sees your struggles and comforts you, you realize what positive feelings are supposed to be like. I placed a safety charm, which I got from the temple, under his pillow. Uncle, wish you a speedy recovery. Goodbye. After returning to the villa, I continued packing. The moving company arrived just as Jenny drove back. She stopped me angrily. Gary, what's going on? I suddenly realized something. Though I'd already given up on her in my heart and decided to break up, she didn't hear the official breakup. So, I spoke up seriously. Jenny, we're breaking up. Jenny looked shocked and angry. Gary, say it again. You heard me. How dare you? What right do you have to break up with me? Without my family, you'd be dead by now. I cut her off. Your dad's the one who helped me, not you. If he wants me to repay the favor, I'm happy to. But I won't use my marriage and a lifetime of happiness to do it. Sorry, I'm not willing. Jenny glared at me. Is it because of Henry? If I say I really don't like him now, just see him as a friend. What kind of friend has no boundaries? If you don't like it, I can keep my distance from him. Jenny, are you trying to keep me? Sure enough. Hearing this, she jumped up. Gary, don't act all high and mighty. If you leave today, don't think about coming back ever again. I stayed indifferent. Then she said, Henry's been staying at a hotel since he came back. If you leave, I'll let him move in. Did she really think that tactic would still work on me? Do whatever you want. By the way, check your email and approve my resignation. Jenny stood there, stunned. I left. Feelings go both ways. A one-sided relationship won't last. When I got to the office, I started handing over my tasks. This week, Jenny was in a bad mood. During every meeting, the higher-ups didn't dare breathe loudly, and a few employees got fired for mistakes. On my last day, just as I was about to leave, she called me into her office. Gary, you win. Tell me, what do you want for us not to break up and for you not to leave? Just stay by my side. I suspected Jenny was losing it. If there's nothing else, I'll go now. The resignation's done. Jenny suddenly stood from her chair. Gary, just then the office door opened. Henry was dressed sharply, looking pretty good even to someone like me who's clueless about fashion. He was holding a lunchbox, the type our family's cook uses. Seems like he really moved in. I turned to give them space. But Jenny said to Henry, I need to talk to Gary, you should go. Henry looked visibly disappointed. So I said, we're done talking. There's nothing more to say. I'm leaving. But Henry blocked my way, looking at me pleadingly. Gary, don't misunderstand. There's nothing between Jenny and me. We're just friends. She's just pitying me by letting me stay. Don't fight about me. I feel guilty. I'm heading back abroad soon. I really hope to see you two make up. Yeah, just like how you kissed friends. It's my issue. I'm too traditional and can't accept you joining our family. That's why I'm leaving. You, how could you say that? Misunderstand me if you want, but don't say such hurtful things about Jenny. You'll make her sad. Sad? First, she needs a heart. Covered my mouth. Stop talking. Hearing a guy talk like this makes me sick. Henry looked at Jenny, clearly upset. But surprisingly, Henry, go out. Henry unwillingly left, and then Jenny spoke slowly. There's really nothing between us. Henry suffered from severe depression. 2 days before our engagement, he called me to say goodbye after attempting suicide. That's why I left for LA without informing you the next day. He asked me to keep it a secret, so I haven't said anything. He came back to unwind, and I'm his closest friend here, so I've been looking out for him. Jenny, you don't have to explain. We have no relationship now. Gary, I've already explained. What can't you let go? She really seemed unable to grasp why I insisted on breaking up with her, so I decided to make it clearer. Jenny, I don't like you anymore. The office was silent for a moment. What did you say? I don't like you anymore. Since when? She stared at me, unwilling to let it go. I don't remember. Maybe it was when you played games with me and almost got me killed with alcohol. Maybe it's when you sang to Henry in front of me, ruining our engagement, or maybe it was throughout the past 2 years. Every time you took out your bad mood on me, every bit of indifference burned through my love. For 2 years, fearing losing her, not knowing what I did wrong, I hardly slept. Suffering from insomnia is how I heard her midnight calls. Always worried, leading to an unhealthy devotion. Jenny didn't know that the day she went to Henry, I had my gardenia tattoo removed. Still hurts, worse than when it was first done. But she never noticed. News about me quitting spread fast in the industry, and I got tons of job offers. I turned them all down, though. There was this one company I really wanted. I sent in my resume and was waiting for a response. Soon enough, the general manager reached out personally. Once we set the start date, I hung out with friends a few times. One time, as Mike and I were leaving a restaurant, I saw Jenny standing outside. Snow had started falling at some point. Her face and nose were bright red from the cold. Mike nudged my arm. If you go back to her with your love-struck mind, we're done, he warned. Don't worry, I won't, I reassured him. As we laughed and left, Jenny called out to me. Gary, can we talk again? Her voice sounded filled with sadness, carried by the cold wind. I grabbed an umbrella from the car, opened it, and handed it to her. No need, I said. Gary, I'm sorry. I was wrong, I really do know now. Without you, I can't do anything right. All I think about is you. I know my temper's been bad these last 2 years, and Henry's stuff really hurt you. I promise, I won't be selfish anymore, never make you sad, and I'll keep my distance from other guys. Okay? Gary, please give me another chance. She started crying, tears shining. I felt nothing like an observer outside a play. Before I could speak, Mike wrapped an arm around me and mocked Jenny. What's up with you? You only realize you want him back when you've got nowhere to turn? What's wrong with you? Last year, my brother's birthday, you went on a trip with your party friends. 2 years ago, at his business meeting, he fainted from heat exhaustion. Did you check on him? These are just the highlights. I warn you, if you're trying to get back with Gary, I'm the first to say no. You're harder to shake off than a bad rash. Finally gone and you want back in? No chance. Bother him again, and I'm calling the cops. I stopped Mike, turned to Jenny and said, my friend's opinion is my own. She stood there, umbrella in hand, looking lost. Were you this sad when my friends teased you? It's all in the past, I replied as Mike led me away. Late love's worthless, Mike said. Nothing good comes from someone who realizes too late they messed up. On the day I flew to Harbor City, I posted on social media. Jenny's comment popped up. Gary, I have something important to tell you. Wait, I'm on my way. I blocked her everywhere. This time, I wasn't stopping for anyone. 28-year-old Gary needed to live his own life. Later, I heard that Jenny had worn a wedding dress and taken a sports car to the airport that day I left, just to propose. She had an accident on the way because she drove too fast. Luckily, no one got hurt, and she was fine. About Henry's depression, word spread from abroad back home. He'd been blacklisted for copying people's artwork. He'd lived a wild life overseas, funded by a sugar mama. Maybe he had an art dream, but temptations got him, living it up abroad. Depression? Nah, just no morals. When he ran out of options, he turned to his backup plan. He knew Jenny liked him and now managed a company. A real catch. So he pretended to call her, faking suicide. Back home, he tried to drive a wedge between us, hoping to latch onto her. Whether Jenny ever wavered in our relationship, only she knows. My answer doesn't matter, because with or without Henry, we were bound to end. Still, I got a friend abroad to dig up his past, to pay her family back for old kindness. Someone like Jenny, with her pride, wouldn't tolerate betrayal. Later, Henry was in the news for gambling addiction and living a life of dodging debt collectors, likely with her help. Jenny wasn't doing any better. She made some bad decisions that tanked her company's reputation. 3 years later, I was vice president at my new job. While traveling, the CEO threw a party to welcome me. A year before, I had helped broker a deal with a big real estate company for him. As I was mingling, someone approached from behind. "Gary, can I talk to you?" I turned around to see one of Jenny's old party friends. Before I could respond, the CEO snapped, "Today's my friend's day, don't sour it. Get lost." The guy left, looking embarrassed. Later, in the bathroom, I overheard him on the phone. "Damn, if I knew Gary was this successful, I wouldn't have chased after Jenny. Should have gone after Gary, but now it's too late. We used to act all cool towards him, now he's out of our league. No wonder Jenny didn't come. She didn't want to be embarrassed. Hiding won't help. Everyone knows now she's a fraud. Without Gary, her company wouldn't have grown. Then she betrayed him, and look at her now, her company's finished, and her pride's shattered. If she hadn't talked behind Gary's back, calling him useless but obedient, we wouldn't have believed her crap, and we wouldn't have disrespected Gary. Thought he was a freeloader. He came out just as I finished washing my hands. I glanced at him in the mirror and said slowly, "You still haven't kicked the habit of talking bad about people." "Huh? Sorry, Gary." I took the paper he handed me and wiped my hands carefully. Didn't bother looking at him again. As for his family's company, it's long been blacklisted by me. I admit I hold grudges. After the party, I saw someone I hadn't seen in a while downstairs when I went back to the hotel. Jenny turned around, and that's when I noticed the scar on her forehead. I thought she came to ask me to save her company. But unexpectedly, she said, "Gary, I'm leaving, going with my dad to a rehab center abroad. The company isn't what it used to be, but it's still got some standing. I've got professionals managing it." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. She seemed calm, but there was a sadness in her eyes she couldn't hide. "You probably wondered why I chose to be with you, yet treated you so poorly, right?" I stayed quiet. After a long pause, she said, "Because of jealousy. Gary, I've been jealous of you ever since we were kids. No matter how much I tried or how many tutors I had, I could never match you. My dad always praised you at home. I secretly competed with you for years. One day, I wanted to see what kind of person you really were, so I went with my dad to the orphanage. You know, you shouldn't have looked at me with that obvious admiration in your eyes. It was my leverage over you. No matter how amazing you were, you still didn't dare to touch even the edge of my skirt. Your careful demeanor pleased the insecure me at the time a lot. After you graduated college, I brought you to my side. I was jealous of how excellent you were, but benefited a lot from you. After the company stabilized, I felt you were less useful. Your presence constantly reminded me that I was a failure, only able to rely on a man. I couldn't hold back and would lash out at you, humiliate you on purpose, to feel more balanced. A few days before our engagement, I overheard you on the phone with a friend, questioning if getting engaged was the right choice. That call was poignant because I'd realized by then that there were problems between us. I thought you regretted it. I didn't want to be a failure in love as well. Instead of waiting for you to leave me, I decided to leave first. So I used a call from Henry as an excuse and ran to Los Angeles. Honestly, I only saw him as a friend, was tricked by his depression and felt sorry for him. When you called off the engagement, I was furious. I realized you didn't love me as much and had to confirm it. I couldn't help but lash out, deliberately going to Henry and giving you the cold shoulder. Before, you would always try to comfort me, but not that time. Your indifference really angered me. Your coldness made me want to hurt you. I had them humiliate you on purpose, played ambiguous games with Henry intentionally, and even wanted you to drink, yet you wouldn't say a word of submission. When you had a stomach hemorrhage, I was truly scared to lose you. I didn't want to test how much you still loved me. But your eyes clearly told me you didn't love me anymore. I was terrified to hear you say break up, so I went to Henry, knowing he'd post on social media. But you didn't care. I didn't want to suck it up again and again, but only you were there when my dad was critically ill. When you resigned, I was furious, thinking you did it to spite me. I was actually scared you'd leave, afraid something would happen before the company went public, so I begged you. But when I personally heard you say you didn't like me, I felt my world truly collapsed. I couldn't even bring myself to try to persuade you. Every day since you left, I've been lost. Suddenly, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. While in school, I saw you as an imaginary opponent, compared grades. At work, I relied on you while being jealous. Because I had too many negative emotions towards you, I forgot that I too loved you. By the time I realized, I couldn't catch up to you anymore. She touched the scar, saying, I left this scar on purpose, to remind myself constantly of how foolish I've been, and what I missed. Gary, I'm telling you all this not to win you back or atone, but so you know that in our 5 years together you did nothing wrong. You were great. I was the problem. After the breakup, lying awake every night became my problem. Don't pity me. I brought it on myself. I hope after the breakup you can sleep well every night without needing sleeping pills. I wanted you to know I did love you. That's it, Gary. Goodbye. She turned and slowly disappeared into the night. I stood there watching her back for a long time. There were many things I wanted to say, yet no words came. In the end, love left both of us wounded and yet stronger apart. She once said she hoped my happiness would be incomplete without her. But every night since we parted has been a true peace for me. Eventually, I just softly said, goodbye. The fact that I loved her once was indeed a small matter, and it was over long ago.